Can Apple become the next biggest bank? Maybe yes, or maybe not. Or maybe the better question to ask is, does Apple really want to become one? In this episode, I'll go over some of Apple's financial services like Apple Pay, Pay Later, Apple Card, why Apple is running after the financial services, and its potential to become the next big thing in this space. Without any further ado, let's dive right in. Apple has arguably the strongest brand on the planet. There are no questions. It's a culture, it's a moment. Apple has the largest concentration of cash equivalents of any publicly traded company in the entire globe. With $200 billion in cash and $2.1 trillion in market cap, it is actually equivalent to one-tenth of US GDP and almost equivalent to India's GDP. With 1 billion active iPhones, Apple captured 45% of smartphone market in the entire globe. It was in September 2012, Apple released its flagship service called Passbook, which is now called Wallet.
Now, Passbook is the simplest way to get all of your passes in one place.
Passbook essentially created a need to digitally store IDs, credit and debit cards, tickets, or even car keys in some cases. But the real deal happened when it released Apple Pay in 2014, a game changer in cardless payment.
Just how fast and just how easy it is.
Okay, your total is $23.78.
That's it!
Today, Apple is accepted in more than 85% of retailers in the United States. Apple makes money by charging 0.5% fee per credit card transaction and half a cent per debit card transaction. By the end of 2020, there were 6.4 million Americans with Apple Pay. Then came Apple Cash in 2017. It was an attempt to grab market in peer-to-peer payment technology.
Apple Pay for person-to-person payments. With iMessage, it goes into your Apple Pay cash card. And from there, well, you can send it on to friends and family if you're charitable.
Venmo and Cash app were widely used back then. You probably might have not noticed. Venmo was acquired by PayPal, which is another peer-to-peer payment company. 2019 is when things got real, when Apple released its first physical card with features like sharing the same card digitally with family, setting up limits on credit usage as such. Within 6 months, 3.2 million Americans held Apple Card, a feat no other FinTech company has achieved in a very short span. Now let's talk about WWDC 2022, Apple's developers conference. The company announced Apple's vision to its flagship product, Wallet, is essentially to replace your wallet with their wallet and with their products. Apple Wallet, Apple Pay, Apple Cash, Apple Pay Later, Apple Tap to Pay. It is also worth mentioning Apple had to acquire many FinTech companies like Credit Kudos, MobiWave to achieve its long-term vision. So that brings to the big question in the room, why is Apple running after financial services? So the one obvious reason that I could think of is Apple wants to create more and more reasons and put in front of you and me so that we buy new versions of their devices. It could be an iPhone, it could be a Mac, or it could be an iPad. Apart from being a lifestyle brand, if you had observed in each of its releases, Apple tries to cut down one physical thing that we would have to carry otherwise. A good example that I can tell you is a LiDAR scanner. Back in days, when I was trying to create a 3D model of myself, I remember standing in front of several hundred cameras, and all the cameras took a picture of me simultaneously and compiled them and made a 3D model of it. It took an hour for me to come up with a 3D model of myself, and I had to physically go somewhere. Today, if you have an iPhone with a LiDAR scanner in it, you can literally make any object a 3D model. That is innovation, that is ease of using new technology. Being a millennial, I've been to a physical branch of a bank handful of times, and I was on call many times to talk to a customer service representative to have some issue of mine to be fixed. Most of the times, I find it really hard to understand their process. Either it could be a complex process that is in place, which is what I'm failing to understand, or the other person is failing to explain it to me. This is one area Apple could leverage one of its core competency, the customer experience. Apple is exceptionally good in making complex process appear to be very simple to the end user. Thinking back at my Apple Card application and card activation, the experience was like no other. So here are my 2 cents. Banks will always be there and will always be necessary. But the disruption is happening in the banking technology and the way how we do banking. Apple doesn't need to become the biggest bank or beat any Main Street incumbent. Sometimes it's the little things that matter, and the whole package that it offers that chips away the advantage that others have. Whether or not Apple is successful in developing a full stack bank, it is always going to play a crucial role in payment ecosystem because of its widespread distribution of digital devices. This is actually great because it will hopefully force the banks to finally get their act together and be more innovative. And that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do, please consider subscribing my channel, and I'll see you in another video. Until then, keep learning.